Hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman & Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 13th of December 2024, including Elton John on the highs and lows of his sparkling career in the rockumentary Elton John, Never Too Late on Disney+, and Lisa Kudrow and Ray Romano as a couple trying to sell their Los Angeles home in the Netflix comedy series No Good Deed.
And we'll also be checking out Emma and Matt Willis's Channel 4 documentary Swiped, the school that banned smartphones. I have a lot to say about that. And discovering the secret lives of animals in a new wildlife series on Apple TV. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Saoirse Groundsel will lead the cast of the BBC's Gaelic drama The Island, about the investigation of a brutal murder at a remote island mansion. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, Now TV's The Death of Bunny Munro will star Matt Smith as a sex-obsessed salesman who takes a road trip with his young son after the death of his wife.
Pretty decent selection for you this week. Starting with, arriving on Disney Plus on Friday the 13th of December, this is a new rockumentary called Elton John, Never Too Late. And here's a clip.
When I was very young, my life was all consumed by music. I just wanted to become a songwriter.
The album went soaring up into the charts.
Did you know that you nailed it?
Yeah. We had hit after hit after hit after hit. The acclaim grew and the audiences grew.
You're the most famous pop star in the world.
This is a one-off documentary about Elton. It's co-directed by his husband, David Furnish, and a chap called R.J. Cutler, who is a very well-respected documentary maker from America who previously... He's done quite a lot of political documentaries, but he's also did a film about Billie Eilish. This is looking back, focusing on the 1970s, this period in the 1970s when Elton shot to fame and just released a string of albums that went to number one. And then you've also got interviews with him today, looking back on it and talking about his life. Very candid interviews. He talks about his drug addiction, his when he was very unhappy, even though he was really successful, he was desperately unhappy. He was groundbreaking in that he came out, initially he came out as bisexual in an interview in Rolling Stone magazine, which was unheard of back in those days. I remember back in the 70s, Hannah, before your time, my sister bought the album Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, which got this brilliant cover. It's a bit like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. I remember listening to that, and that is one of these albums that was at the point where Elton was becoming a megastar. Ever since then, I've been a massive Elton John fan. So we see, people who've watched Rocket Man, a lot of they'll recognise a lot of these things. So he talks about his unhappy home life, of course. We see that famous residency at the Troubadour Club in LA, which kind of started to break him in America, and it got really good reviews. We see the Dodgers Stadium gig that he played. While he's been interviewed for this, he's on his farewell tour, which includes a return to the Dodgers Stadium. So he was famous for his live shows, very flamboyant stage outfits, of course, and he talks about his family life, and we see his boys come on stage at the Dodger Stadium. And it's really about, as well as celebrating that great, probably after Lennon and McCartney, John and Taupin, the second greatest songwriting partnership, I would say, in British rock and pop. So as well as celebrating his wonderful music and incredible performance and also opening up about his private life, he's kind of saying, and the title is Never Too Late, which is also, I think, a new track that he's release that plays over the closing credit. More important than any of the success was the fact that he was able to kind of find out who he really was, express that, and have a family and find happiness. I was already sold on this because I love Elton John, and I had a chat with R.J. Cutler, the co-director, and there's one section in the film which is really interesting. John Lennon and Elton John hooked up at a point when John was estranged from Yoko, Elton sang backing vocals on a John Lennon single and he said, this is going to get to number one. And John Lennon said, no, it isn't. And Elton said, well, I bet it does. And if it does, you've got to agree to come on stage with me at one of my concerts. And it did go to number one. And he did go on stage and at Madison Square Garden. And we see that moment when he comes out. And R.J. Cutler was a very, very young lad. And he was at that gig. He saw John Lennon and Elton John playing together. So, yeah, it's definitely a labour of love, a passion project. It is really well done. It's really well put together. Highly recommended. Hannah, did you like this?
Yeah, do you know what, Ian? I think you're right. This is a total passion project, isn't it? And both of us really like these kind of music documentaries. But with Elton, I mean, you know, you'd have to live under a rock not to know one of his songs or to be moved by something that he's done or sung. And he seems to be sort of a real survivor in this industry in many ways, hasn't he? Because it was sort of against all the odds. He's made it, but really it's just an absolutely true talent. He's incredibly generous with his time, with his money, and seems very well liked in the industry, really. And I think the fact that you sort of see his life, how difficult it's become, well, how difficult it was, and how I suppose it's become easier once you say as he came out and he was comfortable being gay and kind of admitting that was such a massive thing for somebody at that time. But also, I think it's hitting at a time where Elton is struggling, isn't he? He's struggling at the moment. He's struggling with his eyesight. He's quite a different man that's on the stage than all these years ago. And so for a lot of people, it will, I suppose, tug at the heartstrings because you see his journey and where he is today. But just I think it's great. I mean, it's just so honest. Well, it feels very honest. It feels very authentic. I'm sure. It does document the highs and the lows. Of course it does, and of course it will have absolutely his spin and what he wants us to see. But it feels very, very thorough. I think people enjoy it.
Next up, very much something that's in your wheelhouse, Hannah. On Channel 4, a new 2-part documentary showing on Wednesday the 11th and Thursday the 12th of December. You'll be able to watch it on Channel 4 streaming as well. It's Swiped, the school that banned smartphones. And here's a clip.
Say goodbye to your Snapchat streak. Join us as we lock away our smartphones for 21 days.
It's going to be like the olden days.
To see how much damage our devices could be doing to us.
Since the dawn of time, kids didn't have phones.
I don't know how they coped.
Swiped, the school that bans smartphones on Channel 4. Starts Wednesday, the 11th of December.
This is something really close to my heart, actually, because I have children of the age that are into phones, and, well, who isn't into phones? You see 2-year-olds in prams with phones, don't you, swiping and being able to use that smartphone probably better than I can, and I'm not that old, but it's second nature to these kids. And This works really well, in my opinion, because not only is the subject matter very important, but it's also presented by two people who, I think their daughter is 14. I think their eldest daughter is 14 or around that age. A real pivotal moment in most children's lives, hormones raging. And of course, they are beginning to get into that social media and, sort of everything that you perhaps ideally don't want them to. And this is a 2-part documentary, and it really examines the impact of this technology on children's well-being. And I didn't think I was shockable, but actually, from what I've seen so far, it brings a tear to my eye, because I think any parent that, and actually even yourself, if you're not a parent, you can recognise it in yourself, how addicted you become to these smartphones. And it's not your fault. The technology is there to addict you. It's there to get that dopamine hit for you to want to go back and back and back and back. And then, of course, the really sad part of social media, which is just so awful, where we all become little lemmings. We all want to follow each other. And the very dark side, where you measure yourself against things that are just, you can't do that. It's immeasurable, and the sad stories that come from that. So, for me, this is something really close to my heart because it's really hard to navigate, and this is really massively unregulated at the moment. And we've seen in other countries, Australia now, banning them in schools. So in this documentary, they team up with the Stanway School, which is in Colchester in Essex, and it's a group of year 8 pupils. So year 8's 12 to 13 age group, and they get rid of their devices for 21 days, and it's just an experiment, really. And you can see straight away these children, I can't imagine being without it. The withdrawal symptoms are absolutely huge, but they wanted to check their behaviour, their cognitive abilities, attention, reaction times, memory, sleep, because of course that blue light, anxiety, mood, loneliness, all the things that I do. In fact, I took my child's phone away from her for 3 weeks, and I can absolutely tell you there's a correlation between poor behaviour, poor attention span, upset, and that being taken away is quite a different child. Now, I'm not saying you can take it away forever because you have to navigate these times, but I completely am on board with this, and I can see it. And I saw Matt Willis interview today, actually, and he welled up. He was almost on the verge of tears at what this does to children. And the come down when you've got that addiction, it's just the same as taking drugs. And I always use this analogy. It's just the same as taking drugs. You take it away, you go cold turkey, you have to go through that awful period of low before you can find yourself again. And it's so hard as a parent. How long do you keep that phone away? Will they find another way? Do they find a burner phone? Do they use someone else's account and use their Snapchat details to get into that, or TikTok, or whatever their chosen social media is, and then compromise other things? Yes, possibly. So you're juggling this all the time. So this is an experiment that is just so pertinent and so important at this moment in time when there is no regulation at all, and which there needs to be. And I think that it's just absolutely fascinating, and people need to sit up and listen. And if I could turn back the clock, I'm not sure I would have given my children smartphones for secondary school. I think the old brick might have just done the trick. But you've got to be fairly strong-willed to let that happen, because, of course, your children are going to go through a bit of bullying probably on the way for having that phone. So it's a really tricky one. No judgment. Just I think it's an amazing documentary shining some light on some really serious topics that would never seem to be a priority, because frankly they probably make too much money.
It's a real Pandora's box, isn't it? And so, pornography, of course. They talked to the parent of someone who was accessing material about how to kill yourself, and the lack of regulation, as you say, Hannah. So getting Matt and Emma to front it works really well. It makes it very digestible and very kind of approachable. And they go into school and they talk about their own experiences with their kids. And like, can I say, I think Matt's has landed on his feet there, really, to be honest, because she seems to be the one who's got her head screwed on. Like she says, and you did do all the security stuff on the kids' phones, didn't you, to stop them? And he said, no. But yeah, they're good. They get into the spirit of it, and they're just nice people, aren't they? So yeah, super topical. Interesting to see the kids reacting. Like initially, some of them are quite up for it, but very quickly they're not happy. Although you do see these two lads quite soon after giving up their phones. They're outside playing, and one saying to the other, "I can't believe you're getting so much enjoyment just from a stick." But you think, yeah, kids playing outside. This is good. This is positive. So yeah, very timely, very interesting. Over on Apple TV Plus. Now, you're going to have to wait a little while for this one because it doesn't land till Wednesday, the 18th of December. It's a new wildlife series called The Secret Lives of Animals. And here's a clip.
Experience a world beyond imagination, where fish can fly, lizards walk on water, apes master tools, and frogs disappear in plain sight.
This has a stamp of quality because it's made by BBC Studios' Natural History Unit. And it's narrated by Hugh Bonneville. Yes. So we're kind of spoiled with the incredible wildlife shows that we get to see. I think it's always a bit of a challenge finding new ways to kind of theme them or kind of divide them up, or but what they've done in this, it's sort of pivotal moments in life cycles. So the first one is the first episode is about leaving home. Okay, that's what all these stories have in common. But we do see some interesting stuff. There's this lizard that is colloquially known as the Jesus lizard. It can literally walk on water. It's quite a remarkable sight. Another lizard is moving in on its territory, and it needs to escape, and it just runs across this expanse of water with its incredibly large feet. So that was great. Then there's a fish that can kind of come on land and sort of jump by using its tail almost as like a spring. There's amazing footage of an elephant crossing a sort of raging river, and all you can see is the very tip of the trunk just above the surface of the water in this very fast-moving river. That's astonishing. So yeah, it's all high-quality filmmaking, and also you get, which is commonplace at the end now, you get a look at the making of, and they're actually looking at how they captured the astonishing pictures of this elephant doing a river crossing. So yeah, there's also a wood mouse. So there's this wood mouse that is in fear of being preyed on by an owl, and it's sort of running about in vegetation. But so that it can very quickly find its way back to its burrow, it leaves leaves, almost like a sort of trail of breadcrumbs, so that it can follow its path back really quickly and get below ground. So yeah, there's lots of great stuff coming up, and yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you think, Hannah?
I love things like this because the animal world is just unbelievably intriguing. We could learn so much from them. It's so simple, isn't it, really? Yet the stuff they do is so intricate. I mean, like you say about the leaves, how have they thought that? I often think that about ants. If you ever see ants in the garden, and they kind of all got their own jobs. Same with bees. They've all got their own work and what they've got to do, and yet somehow they just, in this animal kingdom, it's survival of the fittest, yet there they are with their roles, just like we are when we go to work and we take our role on. They're all going about it. And what's interesting about this is some of the animals that you kind of didn't know, some unusual, extraordinary animals that you didn't know, like the fish, and I don't know, I just feel like we have so much to learn from animals, and seeing them leaving home, you kind of whether they flee the nest, if you like, and they move on, it just makes you feel really sad. You humanize these creatures, don't you? But actually no, it's the animal world. It's okay. If anyone's ever been on safari, they'll know what that feels like, because I remember once I was on honeymoon, went on safari, and we saw this pack of lions, and I didn't want them to kill the impala. It was just awful. I didn't want to see that. But then after 5 days of not getting any food for her young, we'd been schlepping after them and tracking them, and suddenly you wanted her to. Suddenly you became part of an understanding of what they needed and what they required, and being survival of the fittest. So yeah, I really liked it, and Hugh Bonneville did a good job.
We're going to finish over on Netflix with a new comedy series that arrives on Thursday the 12th of December. It's called No Good Deed, and here's a clip.
Good morning, house hunties.
Wow, look at Margot. She looks like an AI-generated bitch.
But do you like Margot? Because I can't tell.
If you're serious about making an offer, think about a number and then go way above that.
They look like a nice couple.
Just make sure we find the right buyers.
Yes, fans of Lisa Kudrow, who anyone who doesn't know her is the Friends actor, will enjoy this, because this sees her play a part that's a little bit different. It's quite it's a comedy, but it's pretty creepy in places. And essentially it sees her and her husband trying to sell their very beautiful, I'm going to tell you that now, very, very beautiful, lovely home. It's kind of Spanish-style Los Angeles villa. It's massive, let's be clear. But they want to sell it, but they're trying to hide all the dark secrets. And so you can see these real estate agents coming around, showing people around, and they're looking through these cracks in the walls and down, looking to see who they want. They've got kind of cameras everywhere to see who they want to buy it. And I think it's 3 or 4 couples that are vying to buy this house. And they want to do it before the secret's out in the house. And I'm not going to say what's gone on in this house, but it's pretty creepy. And as it goes on, you can see these couples that want to buy it are so determined. And you know what it's like when you can't have something or you don't think you're going to get something, you want it even more. And that's exactly what happens here. So, Lisa Kudrow and her husband have they're really funny together, actually. They work really well together. You kind of see their marriage. They're brought together because of what's happened and what they're trying to do. But it goes from being quite comedic, I think, at the beginning, to suddenly taking quite a dark turn in a couple of places. Where I'm sort of like, oh, actually, this is a bit creepy in places, and these kind of these quite dangerous secrets that they're trying to cover up. But I'm not going to say what any of that is, because it will just give the whole thing away. It's fun. It's a bit different. If you like Lisa Kudrow, you'll like this. There are some good names in here. Really good cast. There's Rescue Me's Dennis Leary, who plays scary ex-con Mikey, and Luke Wilson plays the depressed soap star JD. I mean, for me, Lisa Kudrow and Romano, they kind of, for me, they're such main characters in this, and they work really well together. And I think if they didn't work really well together, you'd have a real problem in this. But it's good fun. I think you'll enjoy it. It's not too serious, but it is a little bit creepy in places. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I certainly was looking forward to it because, Lisa Kudrow, obviously from Friends, which is still shown a lot. I still watch it, and I think she had the most challenging role in Friends, to be honest. And she was absolutely superb in it. And also an old sitcom that is regularly shown on Channel 4 most days, Everybody Loves Raymond, which was created by and stars Ray Romano, and kind of based on his own life, really. And that's worth a look. If you've never seen it, it's hilarious, a domestic sitcom. So I thought, this sounds promising. I will flag up that because I thought it was going to be quite sort of light. I wasn't particularly paying attention while I was watching it. I felt tonally it was a slightly odd, because it's supposedly a comedy, but then when Dennis Leary's character turns up, it's violent. And then also the secret, which I won't reveal, about the house is a really tragic and depressing one. So I thought it was tonally quite odd. It has got some good people in it. At its best, there's good chemistry between Kudrow and Romano. They're funny together. But there's quite a lot of clunky exposition about, this is why A, we have to sell the house, but B, why it's so important to us who gets it. This doesn't, it didn't really add up. Then there's these high stakes added by Leary's character. Again, didn't really add up. So I sort of found, as it went on, I only watched episode 1. I didn't really care whether they sold the house or not, and I didn't really care who bought it. But I did enjoy seeing them playing off each other, and perhaps if I'd given it my undivided attention, perhaps I'd be giving it a slightly more favourable review. But if you like those two great comic actors, worth a look. Well, Hannah, time for a quick roundup of the other good stuff that is on this week. So, arriving on Paramount Plus on Friday the 13th, we wanted to preview it, but we didn't get a screener. Dexter Original Sin, which is a sort of backstory of Dexter Morgan, played by Patrick Gibson. Another Netflix offering, arriving on Friday the 13th of December, Carry On, which is a thriller starring Taron Egerton, speaking of Elton John, as an airport security officer. And it's already being billed as the new Die Hard, a classic Christmas movie, isn't it, Hannah? So, yes, and a couple of things. I tell you what, I wish we could have done this, Hannah. You would have loved to preview this. It arrived on Netflix on Tuesday, the 10th of December. In fact, I'm going to watch it tonight. Prince Harry's documentary about polo. Oh, wow. I cannot wait.
You'll be captivated, Ian, I'm sure.
Finally, after me rambling on about all that stuff, we're going to find out what you've been binge watching on, Hannah.
Well, we talked about it last week. Jack in Time. Great. Love it. And also, I'm not sure if it's just because of everything that's going on in the press about Greg Wallace at the moment, but MasterChef just seemed to be on everywhere I looked. And I just kept seeing him everywhere. So I just tuned in and watched that for a bit just because. I do like MasterChef anyway, but it does seem to have been absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I've been watching it as well. I've loved this series. It is almoys a shock when Greg suddenly appears. You think, why haven't they edited him out? Anyway, we've just got time to look ahead to, it's a big one next week, Hannah. What's happening?
Well, it is the, drumroll please, bumper Christmas and New Year binge watch podcast, and we'll be rounding up all the festive treats on streaming and so-called normal TV, including the return of Gavin and Stacey. Yes, Stacey is on the cover of Woman Home, just saying, putting out there. Joanna Page is there. Amazing, she looks great. And the new Wallace and Gromit adventure too.
Plus, the latest Harlan Coben adaptation on Netflix, Missing You, featuring Rosalind Eleazar, Lenny Henry, Ashley Walters and Richard Armitage. The Strictly Christmas special, of course. And I should add, Hannah, that the Christmas double issues of What's on TV, TV and Satellite Week, and TV Times are all in the shops now with everything you need for your festive viewing. Anyway, we look forward to all of that and much more. But in the meantime, listeners,
Keep watching!